All right, what's going on, guys? My name is Skyler. We're here with Mike Pratt, also joined by Brandon here at the Launch Louisville headquarters. We are about to start our second podcast for our series that has to do with entrepreneurship, personal development, and we are Louisville GRIND. So, Mike, how you doing?
Good. Thanks, Pratt.
Good. So we got a few questions here lined up for you, but before we kind of dive into that, I just kind of want to tell our listeners a little bit about you. So we had a few minutes to speak a little bit before. You mentioned that you were a part of, not a part of, but you own the Louisville Aviation Flight School. Yeah. You also mentioned that you have a hand in insurance and insuring, those pilots and planes and things like that. And you are also a UPS pilot.
Correct.
And lastly, you've got some real estate on your belt. So it's pretty incredible to say the least. If you wouldn't mind just kind of briefly just, telling us a little bit about yourself and
Okay.
Start there.
Well, I moved down here 20 years ago with UPS. Went to Michigan State, got a degree in advertising and Spanish. Picked up a master's degree while I was flying for UPS. Part of the master's degree program was to start a business, so I started a flight school. About halfway through the flight school program, decided that it was time to get into the insurance business and try to generate the commission dollars into my pocket into someone else's. It's done very well. It's been very busy, and we've turned some of the proceeds from the commissions and the flight school into some commercial real estate.
Gotcha. So it's going well for you, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, it's busy. There's a pilot shortage going on right now, so the flight school is busy. Airplanes are flying. A lot of people calling for interest in learning to fly. A lot of military guys coming to us from Fort Knox wanting to convert their helicopter ratings to fixed wing ratings, so they want to get onto the airline. So yeah, it's a good time. It's busy.
Good. Do you have any? What's the craziest experience that you had, if you don't mind me asking?
As a flight school owner, or as a UPS pilot?
As a flight school
owner. Boy, that's a great question. We've had a couple airplanes that have gotten damaged, and we kind of scratch our heads and wonder why. And a couple of those, they brought the airplane back and left a propeller that was bent, but didn't tell anybody. And so they said it wasn't them, and the guy that caught it on the next pre-flight walk-around said he saw it when he found it, but nobody knows how it got there. So
does that happen often, or
no,
that sort of thing?
Probably once in 20 years.
Okay, gotcha. So how did you get started with all this? Like, where was your head at when you first began? Where are you now, and where do you plan on going?
Well, I knew in third grade that I wanted to be an airline pilot, so that was pretty basic. I didn't know where I wanted to go to school at that time, but Mom and Dad helped me with that decision. They wouldn't let me go to an aviation-related college, so I ended up going to Michigan State. I had to pick between Michigan and Michigan State, and I chose Michigan State. It worked out fine.
Okay.
But the biggest decision that I had coming up through the airline industry was, do you want to fly an airplane with no windows, being in the freight business, or do you want to fly for the passenger carriers in an airplane with windows? And that doesn't sound like a big decision, but it is a pretty big decision because you didn't grow up drawing pictures of airplanes with no windows.
Right. Yeah.
And walking through the terminal in your uniform with your, giving out wings to little kids.
Right.
That was appealing because when I would walk through the terminal, that was cool, and you wanted to talk to the pilots. So it was a little bit of a change mentally to which way to go, and I chose the freight route, and UPS has been a great gig. And it took a long time to upgrade to captain, but being a captain is a lot of fun. Where do we go from here? Once you're a captain, now I'll be a captain until I retire, hopefully. And with the flight school, probably some more expansion, maybe some bigger equipment, maybe some charter equipment, some jets, some turboprops, something along those lines. I've always had a goal to try to bring a DC-3, which is a really old 1940s airplane, back to Louisville. There used to be one here.
Okay.
So hopefully with commission dollars, some UPS income, and some flight school income, we'll be able to bring a DC-3 back. That's the long-term goal.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So are you just here in Louisville? Or are you,
As of right now, I've had 2 different cities in Kentucky that have called and requested that we open up a Louisville aviation branch in their city.
Right.
I can't spread myself any further.
Right.
You know,
too much
it's
right now.
Yeah, it is. It's too much right now. Whether I'm sure I could find some folks that would like to buy an airplane and lease it to me, and I could base it there. But the time commitment to manage it, schedule the maintenance, it'll be too difficult. I can't spread myself any further.
Right. Have you given thought to outsourcing management for them to do that sort of thing, or are you more so a hands-on kind of guy where you feel like you need to be a part of the situation?
That's a great question. Pilots are A-type right off the bat, so we like to be in control. We like to have our hands on it, and I am trying my best to delegate and maybe bring in some, but flight schools don't make enough income to really justify bringing on a GM to run things.
Okay.
If there was a better margin or more money in it, it would be fantastic. But maintenance and insurance absolutely just kill you.
And that's obviously why you've gotten several things on your belt, right? I mean, that's a nod to that,
right?
Correct?
Yep.
Okay. Gotcha. What's something that you that you've struggled with, or what's something that you've kind of spent some time in, maybe the first thing that you tried didn't work, maybe the second thing that you tried didn't work, and then maybe finally you overcame it in some way, shape, or form?
For me, the biggest thing has been having airplanes and they break and you don't have another airplane to put someone in because the other airplanes are full. That's my biggest problem now. I haven't really tried a whole lot of things that haven't worked well. I've been pretty lucky that the few things that I have branched out in and tried have worked well.
Why do you think that is? Like, have you ever tried to reverse engineer your own actions and figure out like what are you doing that's?
No, my motivation has always been, if you tell me I can't do it, then I'm going to do it.
This, I can't.
That's been kind of my big thing. I stay within the realm of what I know. I everybody asks me if I can write their health care. Everybody asks me if I can write their auto and their home. Yes, I can. I have a license to do all that. But that's not my forte.
Right.
I can insure an airplane, aviation products, aviation work comp. But if you want me to write that stuff because of our relationship, great, we'll do it. But let's walk down the hall to someone that knows medical malpractice, that knows healthcare and employee benefits. We've got people down the hall, that's all they do, and they're pros at it. Yeah. So we can still write it together, but we're going to bring in another person to do it. Right.
I think that's important too, just as far as entrepreneurship goes in general. I feel like that's something that, young entrepreneurs, most times I feel like they take on too much, right? Or they try to be perfect. And I feel like most times that hinders the productivity, the creativity, all those different things where, I'm the type of guy where first things first, right? Whatever needs to get done first, let's handle that and let's move on to the next thing after that.
Yeah.
So.
And that, that's trying to spread your time and to try to figure out what needs to be done today and what we can put off. Those are hard things to deal with. And some people, they micromanage and they focus on one item and stick on that one item while everything else is going on around them. And that doesn't work well. You've got to be able to kind of manage several different tasks and multitask. That's huge.
Did you ever struggle with that? Like, figuring out how to manage your time and those different things once you were adding in different businesses and ventures into your plate of activity?
Not really. No, that's my wife has oftentimes said you wouldn't, if you didn't have your hair on fire and doing 5 different things at once, I don't know if you'd be able to make it.
I think something's wrong.
And it was the same at Michigan State. I had a double major. I was vice president of the fraternity. And then I was also vice president of the university student body, which was 48,000 students. So my moped was running all over constantly. For a while. And you need to kind of do some academics while you're there. So, I've always been that way. I like to have a lot of things going. It's kind of, I guess it's a challenge to make sure you can get everything done, keep everybody happy. But at the end of the day, number one, you got to have fun.
Yeah.
Every day you get out of bed, you open that window shade and see that sun and go, man, it's another great day. Let's get after it.
Right.
That to me is the most fun.
What would you change if you could go back? do any, like maybe one thing differently, or one opportunity that you passed up on that, you know?
Well, that's a great question. I'd have to digest that one for a little bit.
We can come back to it.
Yeah, I can't really think of anything that. I don't know.
We'll come back. We'll come back. Let's see here. How do you define success?
Wow. I'm sure most people are going to come right after it with income, and not really. I think being known as a business person that is fair and ethical and honest is probably my definition of success. If people come to you because they say, we've heard great things about you, and then they come in and get their license and they leave and go, man, that was great. We kind of pride ourselves on having people, we want them to come in and learn to fly, but we want them to hang out. We want them to loiter. We want them to study there. We want them, just because you get your license, we don't want you to disappear. Come on back. Come on, hang out at the school. That's kind of what our thing has been. And when I learned to fly up in Michigan, it was the same way. People came out Saturday mornings and they hung out. They brought coffees. They'd be sleeping on the couch. Their head would be back, but they were at the airport, and that's what we want. We want people coming to the airport. The airports are a big economic shot in the arm to this community, and we've got an airport authority board now that's really on our side at both airports. So it's pretty exciting. We got a lot of good stuff coming right now.
Definitely, that's what it sounds like. That's absolutely what it sounds like. So for somebody who's, let's say, because obviously we have a lot of people who are either trying to start their own business or in the very, very infant stages of their own business, who maybe are struggling with, their first idea or struggling with getting started. What kind of advice would you give to that person who's, has something in mind? Maybe they're working towards it. Maybe they have a group or doing it by themselves. But what kind of advice would you give to that person as far as moving forward, with that initial idea?
Sure. A couple things. Number one, I think it's really important to have a relationship with a bank. A bank or a banker, either one. Whether it be a neighbor, whether it be a friend, whether it be your local bank where you do your checking. Establish a relationship, because without them, without some financing, you're dead in the water. Right. Second of all, Brandon mentioned it earlier, surround yourself with people that know what they're doing. Right. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Whether it be insurance, whether it be flight school, or whether it be people at UPS on the flight side, always go to the people that know what they're talking about and they know what they're doing. It's their forte, and go ask them questions. Don't be afraid to ask for help. I've done that a lot, and in all three of the areas that I work in, I have a core group of people that I know if I have a question, I can pick up the phone, call them, and go, hey, what should I do here? And I'm not afraid to do that, and it's. Yeah.
I feel like that's important. No matter what stage of your business that you're in, you have to have someone that you can call on for, to gain some sort of knowledge. We've
got guys that lease back airplanes to us that are business owners, and some of those guys they're great resources. We just added another airplane with another gentleman who's got a big company here in Louisville. He's getting ready to open another big company. Man, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna pipe him for information. He's gonna. He has no idea yet, but I'm going to ask him for all kinds of advice because he's done well. And while we've done well on a smaller scale, if we want to take it to the next level, I need him to kind of help me, point me in the right direction. How do we do that? So, the other thing, and my bookkeepers mentioned a lot, they've always said, let us do more so you can go out and do more. Right. And that couple, they've been spot on. The more I give them and the less that I do, the more it gives me time to go out and do things that I should do, whether it be buy more airplanes or market more. That's been my biggest problem, is returning phone calls. My voicemail is full every week, and it's either, what do I choose? I have to go fly my UPS flights, that's number one. But when I land, I have 200 emails. So do I answer the phone calls or do I answer the emails? And that's been my biggest problem. And as you mentioned, if I had a GM, or an office manager, I could probably delegate that. But they don't know the sales end as well as I do. They don't know all the questions that the parents of high school kids are going to ask about flight training. So that's been hard.
That's deep. That's deep. So what would you say is next for you in your career?
It's a good question. I don't know. I assume, or I hope maybe at some point that a large flight school, there's one down in Florida that we've talked to, that maybe they'll come in and say, hey, we want to take your 12 airplane flight school to a much larger scale. And, you know, I guess I'd like to see them say, hey, we'd like to buy you. We want you to stay on as the GM and manage it for us locally, but we're going to take it to a 30 airplane. I mean, Bowman Field's fantastic. You've got the resources, and oh, by the way, you've got UPS right there. That's a direct link for pilots, direct link for jobs, internships. You know, UPS is a gold mine. They need the help. The flight schools need places to send their students and their pilots, so it's really a match made in heaven. So that's the glory of having UPS in this town. They kind of support each other. So if we could, you know, I think we could take this to the next level. It's not going to be me. I can't take it to 30 airplanes. There's no way.
That's rough. That's rough.
We're about at max capacity with what I can do.
I understand that. I mean, you know, it sounds like, first and foremost, it sounds like you're doing a hell of a job.
Thank you.
And it also sounds like you have a gift of hiring the right people. Is really kind of what it sounds like it comes down to, because you can only do what you can do, right? But there's also those, you know, those other people who may, you know, you mentioned returning phone calls, or, you know, whatever the case may be, you have the right people in line to do the right job. Or if it's your banker, right? You know, somebody that you can count on to ask different questions or to clarify something, which is obviously very important. So my last question before we get into our fire round. And we'll get back to that other question as well, but what's your why? What's your motivation? Like, why do you do what you do?
You know, I guess it's probably asset driven. I enjoy having some toys. I have a 1950 Cessna 195 that's an old antique. It's a gorgeous airplane, and the hard work for that subsidizes that airplane. I just added a helicopter about a year and a half ago to the flight school, and I started taking helicopter lessons. And I gotta tell you, that is some of the most fun I have ever had. And I've got an old Vietnam pilot that's my instructor. He's awesome. He's starting to teach some other students. They love him. Helicopter flying is just, it's just different.
That sounds incredible.
It is, it's awesome. So that you know, and all those other businesses kind of support that habit, because helicopter lessons are really expensive. But it's a blast. I mean, it's so much different than flying an airplane. So
which do you prefer if you had to choose?
Well, I would never give up my UPS gig. I love the MD-11. It's my favorite airplane of all time. I've been on it for 17 years as a co-pilot, as a captain. I love the airplane. Every time I get to strap that airplane on and go, it's a great day. But my 1950 little Cessna 195 and the helicopter, I've only flown the Cessna twice in 2018, and I flew the helicopter like 15 times. So
a little biased.
Right now,
you know a little bit better. Now,
once I get my license, I probably won't fly it quite as much, but I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. It's challenging. It's difficult.
Okay, I got you. I was just curious. Just curious. So going back to the that one question, what would you do differently if you could change something, or give yourself a message, 5-10 years ago?
I just don't know how to answer that.
It's a tough question.
When I interviewed for the airlines back in the day, there was kind of a decision between Delta and UPS. And I had an interview for both, and so I went and talked to a Delta crew, and I went and talked to a UPS crew. And the Delta captain gave me some advice that I thought was probably the best advice ever. And his advice was, go where you're going to upgrade to captain the quickest, go to where you're going to have the best stability in a down economy, and go to the best retirement and benefits. Well, back at that time, looking at how an airline does in an unstable economy, UPS always does well in an unstable economy, and then they do very well in a stable economy. So that kind of pointed towards UPS. And his final piece of advice was, once you make that decision, don't ever look back. Don't question yourself. Once you turn 60 and you retire, you can analyze that all you want. But in the meantime, don't even think about it. So I don't really dwell on anything in the past. I don't. So that's why I can't really answer that question well. I don't look. Let's move forward. A lot of people dwell on, right now we made a mistake. That mistake is over. We can learn from it. But let's move forward. There's nothing we can do about it now. So let's learn from it and let's progress to the next level.
Definitely. I think that's good advice. Any way around. All right, so for the fire round, we got 4 or 5 questions.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is keep the answers around 30 seconds to a minute, and just the first thing that comes into your head.
Okay.
First question is, what book are you currently reading, / what's your favorite business book?
Oh boy, Fate is the Hunter is an Ernie Gann aviation book that I've reread several times, and I'm reading that one again. Favorite business book? You know, I can't remember the title of it, but it had to do with manners and etiquette, and I can't remember what the name of the book was, but that was one of my favorite business books.
Okay, well, if you remember, you have to let us know. That way we can, put a link to it and let everybody know, and that way if they're interested, they can definitely check into it. How do you start your morning?
I look out the window, check to see what the weather looks like, grab a cup of coffee, and I always make a glass of fresh squeezed orange juice.
Nice. Okay. What hobbies do you love?
I love my Michigan State Spartans, college basketball, flying, and doing stuff with my family.
Okay. And what's one thing you wish you would have started learning sooner?
I really wish I would have studied some Chinese.
I think about Spanish all the time.
Yeah.
Spanish all the time. I mean, if I could go back, I definitely would take Spanish 1, Spanish 2, and probably all the way up to 3.
And that was one of my majors at Michigan State was Spanish. Yeah. And every time I go to a Mexican restaurant in town, I try to speak Spanish, and it's a blast. And they enjoy it, we enjoy it. But I mean, I'm not as fluent as I used to be, and I wish I was. But Chinese would be. And my son's taking that at St. X. He loves it. He's doing very well at it, and I think that's a strong move.
That's incredible. Okay, nice. And last question. What's something that you want people to know about you, your personality, or your business that they don't already know?
I try to give. That's my biggest trait. I always try to help people out. Whether it's with advice, whether it's trying to give them a price break, whether it's trying to point them in the right direction. That's. You always have to remember the guys that helped you out when you were in our shoes as younger folks trying to get your start. There's always somebody. Pete helped me back in my days in Lansing, Michigan, when I was trying to get a start, and he gave me my first flight instructor job. You have to remember to give back, and I think that's the biggest problem we're having now with a lot of people. They kind of feel they're entitled, and I'm not sure they're going to remember to give back and remember who gave them their first start, who helped them. I can think of all the guys that gave me my first jobs and whatever that may have been, and those guys were all helpful, and I appreciate it, and I owe them a debt of gratitude, and every time I see them, I thank them and talk about how great the memories were, whether it was stocking 7-Up shelves, whether it was flight instructing, all the jobs I had before, and so you have to remember to give back. You have to remember where you came from and give back, and that's kind of my thing.
Yeah, and what you just touched on, just as far as how people are feeling entitled, right? Yeah, I think it's a lot of the youth, to be honest. But why do you think that is?
Well, we've probably given our kids a little more than we were given, and they expect a little more. We're probably part of the problem.
That's fair.
I think we're part of the problem. I hate to say it, but I think technology and cell phones have been one of the biggest problems.
I think that's
going. It's the social skills. It's some of these kids can't communicate, and it's a shame.
Which is scary too.
It is scary. It is scary because we've got to be able to sit and talk and enjoy conversing. And you go to some places and the kids are across each other and they're texting right in front of each other.
Yeah.
And we're guilty of that. It's hard not to have your cell phone at the dinner table. It's hard not to have your cell phone when you're at work. And and as rude as it is to be texting while you're talking to somebody, it's a problem. And I don't have the answer. But it's a problem.
Right. And I mean, when that's all you know, because I mean, I was talking. I forget who I was talking with about this, but we are the 20 to like 25, maybe even 30 is like the last generation that I was thinking of that has the ability to go back and think of a time before cell phones, and then we like grew up with them, and the rapid technology and all that good stuff. And granted, there's obviously older people, maybe a little bit younger people as well. But I was just thinking that I feel like the shift in technology is probably the number one thing that's probably, pointing to that, in my opinion.
But if you don't stay up with it,
then
you're left behind.
Exactly. It's like
it's a double-edged sword. And again, I don't have the answer.
Yeah.
And technology is great. We love it, and we use it, and it helps us be more efficient.
Right.
And I think that's one of the best things that's worked out for the flight school and probably even some of the insurance business and our growth. And it's a double-edged sword again. Is that when you call me at 6 o'clock or you send me a text at 8 o'clock, I'll respond to it.
Right.
Whereas back in the day at 5 o'clock, business is closed up. So communication is a big thing, and it helps sell. On the other side of that coin, my voicemail, as I mentioned, is full. So it's a double-edged sword, and it is tough. It's tough. It's a good problem to have. We're very blessed and fortunate to have that problem, but we got to figure out how to solve it.
Absolutely. I think that might be another conversation. We might have to dive into that one for sure.
Yeah.
But I believe that does wrap up all the questions that I've got down here. Once again, we wanted to thank you for coming out. We really do appreciate you on the podcast. Mike, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, or if they have any kind of questions or wants to do anything, how can they get in touch with you?
LouisvilleAviation.com is our website, and there's a contact link on there. That's the best way to reach me.
Okay.
My email address is on there, and you can contact me via that website, and that UPS questions or insurance questions or flight school questions. They can all come through there. And I'm pretty religious about my email. We lay over and have a lot of awake time from midnight to 4 in the morning while we're on our downtime before we take off. So I catch up on a lot of emails during that time.
Gotcha. Okay. Awesome. We'll be sure to leave that link in the description of this podcast so you guys can check that out in your free time if you wish. Once again, Mike Pratt, Louisville Aviation, Flight School, Insurance, UPS pilot, and commercial real estate. Hell of a track record, hell of a resume. Thank you again for coming on the podcast. We do appreciate you, and look forward to speaking with you again soon.